This is episode 98, A Crisis of Empathy. Welcome to Alive by Design. My name is Blake Mallon, and we're here to bring you inspiring people, principles, and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. Open your mind and let's dive in. Hey guys, before you listen to the podcast, I just want to drop in and say I appreciate you for being here, and I'm super excited about this new Walk With Me series. These are solo episodes where I take some time in the middle of my morning run through the Santa Monica Mountains to share some inspired ideas and thoughts on my mind and heart. If you want to join me for any of these conversations live, you can catch me many mornings on my Facebook page, facebook.com/BlakeMallon.page. Would love to see you there. Love you guys. Enjoy the episode. Walk with me. So I want to start off by sounding the freaking alarm. Like crisis mode. Like I am sensing, feeling a disaster brewing right now. Catastrophe level. At least here in the States, but might even be something happening all around the world. Some of you guys are like, Blake, that's pretty heavy. You're freaking me out right now. You're usually pretty positive. I'm serious. I feel like we are in a state, especially highlighted over the last year, where how quick so many of us are to cast judgment, throw a stone, immediately react, instantly diminish, reduce, sometimes even attack one another. Whether it be in conversation, whether it be, on social media today, is it getting worse? It's like the trolls are multiplying on the World Wide Web. Everybody's a professional critic behind a screen, hiding behind a name, fast fingers on the keyboard. So quick to throw a jab. Am I making this up? Or have the last couple years it been escalating, and really the last year it's like a glass cracked. And we're just in a weird state right now with one another. And you might be saying, well, Blake, what's the alarm you're sounding? What's the disaster? What's the catastrophe? I think everything I just mentioned that I know you are feeling and experiencing, maybe even if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes participating in, is all a reflection right now of a massive lack in empathy. Empathy. That's the alarm I want to sound off with y'all here this morning, as we are in a crisis of empathy right now, at least here in the States, but maybe you tell me all around the world. And I want to have a conversation with y'all about what I mean by empathy, why I feel it's a concern, and a couple thoughts, 3 specifically, on how we can all take steps in improving ourselves in this direction to contribute to a solution and be an example of a solution. Empathy. Just to make sure we're all on the same page, what does that word mean to you? How do you define empathy? Drop it below. And by empathy, yeah, I mean an understanding, like a real understanding of where somebody else outside of you is coming from. Yeah, it's the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, to look through somebody's eyes. But I think it's deeper than that. You see, empathy, true empathy, is not just the ability to care or the intention to care or even the ability to understand perspectives or look at things from different angles. Real empathy is the ability to feel what other people feel. You see, it's deeper than a logical understanding or even a strategic shift in perspective. It's a emotional thing. It's an energetic thing. It's a stepping into a emotion, energy, or feeling of somebody else. Gotta get into the top here. Let me go ahead and take a seat. At least that's how I would define an empathy. And the reality is, this comes naturally to others, and for some of us, it's something we have to work harder on, right? So some people do have a natural gift of empathy. It's something that is heightened, right? It's elevated, and it can't be turned off. It is a radar, so to speak, that goes off in someone's body on a natural level to feel what other people feel, right? We call those people empaths, right? A lot of the times, or sensitive. And some of you guys probably have that gift. And I know we all know people who have that gift. We all have people in our life who don't just care, it's beyond caring, but feel deeply the feelings of others. But even beyond those that have a natural gift, I think it is a basic human trait. It is something that's built in at some level to all of us. And it is something that can be developed and given focus and attention. And given the alarm, the crisis that we're talking about, obviously my point of conversation here is to raise our awareness and intention around it for every single one of us, no matter where our empathy levels are today, and increase them, because I think we need it. We as in people in our country, we as in people on this planet, I think right now more than ever, coming off the last season, we need to do something. Like we're at a state of needed change. So when we talk about empathy, you guys tell me, are we in a state right now where people are so quick to react? People are so fast to judge. It's almost natural conversation to cast a stone, talk trash, be negative, attack, diminish, reduce each other. We're in a state where like haters are a norm, critics are a norm. How often, just even in the last week, if you were to retrack all of your conversations with everybody in person, over the phone, over text, over Messenger, over social media, over DM, how many of those conversations quickly slanted to a negative about another? And so often, many of those maybe were even assumptions, maybe some warranted, maybe many not. If you were to look back over the last 6 months and retrace all of your conversations, how many of those conversations would fall into that vein? Whether it was you or whether it was the person communicating to you or someone in the group. You guys see, we're in a place right now where for some reason, some set of circumstances, somehow we got to a place where we're so quick to reduce one another instead of coming from a place of real empathy. So I want to flip the coin, all right? I want to shift the script, so to speak, and say, how do we develop more empathy first in ourselves so we can be the change and be the example and start to make a shift that's needed right now. And I have 3 thoughts. So the first thought, I think, when it comes to increasing empathy is just a self-awareness and admission, so to speak, that we are not perfect. In other words, a honesty around our own flaws or our own weaknesses. And you guys, these are not a negative thing, right? The reality is all of us have talents and gifts, and all of us have things that come naturally. And every single one of you watching and listening to this right now, I know you have things that are on your strengths list, right? We all have those. You have those. You have things that you excel at. You have things that you win at. You have things that come naturally. You have things that flow. You have those things. We all do. And what's beautiful is those things are different things, right, for different people. But that also means we all have things on the other side of the list, right? Things that we are not the best at, things that we were not built for. We all have flaws in us, right? And things that don't come as naturally. We all make mistakes, right? We all mess up sometimes. We fall, we trip, we go a wrong direction. We all do. And I think the first step we all have to take is an awareness that none of us is perfect and we all make mistakes and we all have those flaws, because if we're honest with ourselves, that, hey, we have imperfections and sometimes we mess up, and sometimes even when our intentions are right and we try our best, we still don't make it. And that's okay. And that's normal. And that's human. And that's true for us just as much as it's true for others. You see, at first we come with an honesty on our own imperfections and the fact that we are going to mess up. Sometimes unintentionally, we tend to give more grace and understanding and compassion and, yes, empathy to others. So I think it starts with a reflection and honesty on us. Who are we to quickly cast a stone when we know we've made similar mistakes? Who are we to instantly judge or cut down when we know we've made similar mistakes? Who are we to be negative or instantly attack when we know sometime in the future the script's going to be flipped? And what type of grace do we want given to us when we are on the other side of that coin? So I think the foundation starts with an understanding of we're all human, we're all on that same level. And don't be so quick to critique, react, when we know there's going to be situations in reverse. I think that's the foundation when it comes to an empathy. How many of you guys would say that's truth for you? How many of you would say that, hey, sometimes I'm critical of others, maybe more than I would hope that they are of me in a similar circumstance? I think the second thing when it comes to an empathy is to have a benefit of the doubt to others. In other words, in every situation, there's only 2 ways you can approach the situation. You can approach the situation assuming positive intent in the other or assuming a negative intent in the other. There's only one or the other that you can approach to any situation. I'll explain what I mean. In any situation, a conversation, right? A working with an individual, a meeting a new person, a collaborating with your coworkers, an action, right, that's being taken. When you go into that situation, you can assume a positive intent, meaning assume they're trying their best, assuming they have your best interest in mind, assuming they're giving it their all, assuming they want to do what's best for others. Or you can go in with a negative intention, assuming the opposite, right? Assuming that they're not trying, assuming that they have a ulterior motive, assuming that there's a negative ill will. There's only one of 2 ways you go into the situation. What is your natural state? When you meet someone for the first time, work someone for the first time, or even work with people you've worked with for a long time, do you assume a negative intention or do you assume a positive intention? You guys, I think in order to elevate empathy, we all have to give each other benefit of the doubt. We all have to assume a positive intent with the people that matter, the people that are close to you, your family, your friends, your coworkers. Even when you first meet brand new strangers, why not assume a positive intent in others? Here's why. Your intention will create a projection. What you seek, you shall find. What you look for, right, will appear. And that's just the way that it works. If you assume a positive intent, you are more apt to see the positive intention of others. But vice versa, if you assume a negative intent, you're going to find a flaw. You're going to find an imperfection. You're going to find something to prove yourself right. Guys, our brains work that way. We are literally hardwired to go seek out what we already feel we believe. I'm not going to go into a whole lesson here on how our neurology works, our biology works, but it's true. We are programmed to reinforce existing beliefs. So you seek, you're going to find. If you go find positive intent, you're going to find that people around you have a positive intent. If you go search for those flaws, you're going to find them 100% of the time. So guys, coming from a place of empathy is making a shift that give people benefit of the doubt, have and assume a positive intent in others. So you can project that in situations. So you extract the best out of other individuals. Now, don't misunderstand me, right? There are people out there that may not have the best intent or motive in mind. And guys, it's okay to let actions speak louder than words. It's okay to adjust your response once someone has shown their colors, right? Once someone has done something based on their actions. But don't go into a situation projecting that and then creating that for yourself. Go into a situation giving someone positive intent and every chance to thrive and excel. Support them in the way. That's what empathy is about. And if you have to make adjustments, right, based on your experience, guys, that's smart, that's intelligent, and you can make adjustments along the way, but don't start in that place. I think the catastrophe we're in right now is too many people are jumping to that conclusion before we give one another even a chance, which means there's not even a barrier, right? A barrier between really understanding where someone's coming from. So I think number one is being true with ourselves and our own flaws. But number two, assume a positive intent in others, project that, look for that, seek that, and then adjust accordingly if needed. And then the last thing I'll say, number three, when it comes to elevating empathy right now is in any situation, we have to learn to respond, not react. And which I know is easier said than done. And I'll clarify what I mean. Reacting is when our emotions get the best of us. Reaction is that knee-jerk response. Reaction is when whatever we say or whatever we do is controlled more by the emotion in that moment than by the real intention or logic within us. And so often we react out of, right, fight or flight. We react out of anger or hate. We react out of protection, right, or security. We react out of emotional triggers or past-based references. We have all this stuff that we don't even fully understand that creates an emotional reaction or response in given situations. We all have it. And I'm not here to try to unwire those triggers or explain where they came from. I'm just here to raise our hand and say, hey, we're all in that boat. We all have those wired within us. We all know what those are. Part of self-awareness is becoming and starting to understand what those triggers are for us. And I'm not even saying we have to unwind them right now. I'm just saying be aware that they're there and pause. And before we react, pause. Before we let our emotions hijack our words and our actions, pause. And by respond, I mean pause. Remove the energy behind the response. And come from a place of love. You can't go wrong by coming from a place of love. Despite the situation, despite the individual, despite how you perceive how bad or good or indifferent it is, pause and respond from a place of love. No matter what the situation, it's always the right answer. And I think if we do that intentionally in our communication or actions, guys, that's approaching a level of empathy that we need right now. So those are my simple thoughts. I think right now we have to make a change. I think it's getting worse, and my fear is that it continues to get worse. I mean, what happens if we don't change in the years to come? I think about my son and my daughter by the time they're my age. What is the world going to be like if we continue slipping down this slope? We need to start going the other way, and the only way to start going the other way is to sound the alarm and say empathy is a solution, maybe not all of it, but some of it. And we need to start being that example. And hopefully these were 3 thoughts to walk us in that direction. Understand that we're not perfect and we have our own imperfections, and being honest and upfront with that, we're going to be more compassionate, empathetic with how we approach others with their imperfections. Understand that there's 2 ways to approach a situation, assuming positive intent or negative intent. And either way, the way we approach it, we're going to project and find and create something to validate. So why not assume positive intent and only make adjustments after that if needed and accordingly? And no matter what the situation that we run into in our communication or action, let's get control of our emotions. Don't be emotionally hijacked by our programming, but learn to pause and then respond, not react, from an intention of love, no matter the situation. And I think those simple things will move us in the direction, not a comprehensive list, not a complete list. I'm sure you guys have more that come to mind, but some thoughts on my mind that I think can help all of us individually and collectively with where we're at today. With that, here's my challenge to all of you to have a more empathetic week. And maybe we start making small shifts that lead to big shifts in ourselves and those around us. Catch past conversations on the podcast. Hey, subscribe. Reviews are appreciated. I read them all. So if you guys have a minute, make your way over to alivebydesign.com/subscribe. Leave some reviews there on Apple Podcast. It helps get the message out to more people. And hope all of you have an awesome, awesome week ahead with a little more empathy on your mind, in your heart, and in the way you handle others. Take care, everybody. Hey guys, one last thing. I'm super excited that this new podcast, Alive by Design, just went live. You see, I designed the show to bring you inspired thoughts and fascinating conversations with the world's most impactful people, to provide transformative principles and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. And I'd love for you to help me spread the word now. Simply subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on this platform right now. So if I've ever given you value, please do me this personal favor and go subscribe now. And if you found today's episode helpful in any way, make sure you share this with at least one friend today. You have the power right now to change someone's day. So send them a text message with a link to alivebydesign.com, or simply copy and paste the link right from this podcast platform. Who's one person you know right now that you want to see succeed, that you want to see grow, that you want to see feel more alive? Shoot them a text with your largest takeaway from today and be a light in their day. And if you were referred here by a friend, make sure you shoot them a text back and say thank you. I'd love to hear from you directly on what you got from today's podcast. So if you're up for it, drop by my Instagram @BlakeMallon and shoot me a DM. And as always, thank you for showing up. I'm grateful for you, and I hope our time together today in some small way helped you feel a little more alive. Until next time.